Ah, oh man, I don't know how to describe the feeling I get every time I come home after being away. I know most people get bummed out about coming home from being on holidays, but I live in Bangkok, so it's completely different. I'm home. It's great to be back in this city. It was so good to have slept in my own bed last night, and today I've come out for a walk in the park, and I wanted to give a bit of a debrief about how my trip actually went. So first up, I want to clear up exactly what I was doing over there, because some of the comments and things that people were saying were absolutely absurd. So I just want to set the record straight. So I wasn't paid by the government to come out and spread propaganda or whatever the hell people were saying. I was over there to just shoot my regular videos, do what I normally do what I do when I travel in any other country. I was not under any kind of contracts or anything like that. And basically all I got was some free hotels and some meals along the way. A couple of times the local media and tourism agencies would come along and just sort of film us watching what we were doing and getting our reactions. Basically, Chinese people love seeing how foreigners react to their country and to their kind of tourist destinations. And that side of it, honestly, I found quite fun. It seems to me a lot of people have this misconception about China, like it's like North Korea or something like that. People thought we were going to be on a guided tour. We'd have people minding us, following us around at all times and not letting us do what we wanted to do, and that I had to stick to whatever they wanted, and that was completely wrong. I had complete freedom to do whatever I wanted. Basically, like I said, I was under no contractual obligations. If I wanted to just go out skating or do whatever, I would. I didn't have to report to anyone or say my whereabouts or anything like that. Basically, I only really shot videos about half the time I was there. The other half of the time I was just doing my own thing, walking around, traveling, exploring. Some days I was hungover. We went out partying a bunch when I was over there. But honestly, the trip was all about fun for me, and all those activities and everything that I did, they were my requests and the things that I wanted to do. To be honest, I don't really know what I expected going in. I'll say the cities that I visited were much more futuristic and much more modern than I expected. There were some really cool things about the places that I visited. China is way more high-tech than I expected it to be. Everything's digital, which I really liked. And I think my biggest surprise out of all of it was the people were actually much more friendly than I expected. There'd be times where I'd be struggling to read a menu or struggling with language barrier things, and people would always go out of their way to try and help us and make us feel welcome, which was something that I really liked about there. Of course, I didn't like everything, and I am happy to be quite transparent about the things that I disliked about the place or the things that I didn't enjoy as much, because overall I really enjoyed the place, and the things that I disliked were they're more cultural differences, I guess. So the first one for me, and this is something like this maybe is just a me thing, I hate people touching me. I like my personal space, and I mean, it's a busy place, and people can be a bit pushy and shovey, especially if there's a line to get in places. People seem quite impatient. They push each other out of the way. This is something I also struggled with in Korea. This is a real thing in Korea. When I lived in Seoul for 2.5 years, it was something that drove me nuts on the regular. And it comes from, people taking those busy subways, and you got to push past each other to get in and out. And honestly, it's something that I have a real hard time with. But as I said, this is not just a China thing. This definitely happened in Korea when I lived there. And that was one of the things that really frustrated me about living there. The second thing is, and I think this will change over time, there's a bit of a disconnect in culture between the older people and the younger people. And this is something that I very much experienced in Korea as well. These places just sort of exploded out of nowhere. And culturally, they've had to adapt quite quick. So the older people, they're just not used to living in the same way that we are as younger people. And you do often get those little cultural differences. So something like you'll see an old man spitting in the street, they hock up a loogie, that which is freaking gross. But you still see it, I don't want to say quite frequently, but you'll see it at least once a day sort of thing. And to me, that grosses me out. And when I speak to anyone, any younger people that I would speak to, they hate that as well. So this is just a disconnect thing, and I think I hope that in time, as those younger people get older, they won't adapt a lot of those same habits that the older people have. And, you know, this is very much the same in Korea. When I lived there, I would talk to younger people and, you know, we'd talk about the disconnects between older people and younger people. Something that frustrated me about another thing about living in Seoul, I'm sure it happens in China as well, is older people will cut in front of you in a line because you have to respect your elders, and you know, all those little things, they irk me as a younger person, but I do believe that whole culture will shift over time. And then the third thing is kind of, I'm torn with this because I love it and I hate it. So that's that everything's digital there, pretty much everything's digital, and you use apps to do everything. So there's two main apps that you can do everything with, WeChat and Alipay, and you pay for everything, you can book taxis, you can do everything through these two apps. So WeChat is the main chatting app that people use. You can send each other money and everything. They have an English version of the app, which is quite good, but it doesn't have, as a foreigner, you don't have all the same tools and same access that the locals do. We can't use a foreign card in WeChat. I know that's in the process of being fixed and being changed at the moment, but I wasn't able to load my card onto there. I still use both apps. I think Alipay was the better option for me. It was easier, the English was available more. However, every time you go into one of the sub apps, I guess, or the app within the app, is not all of them have English capabilities. So it's a struggle just doing things for the first time, setting up the transport card and all that. It's tricky the first time you do it, and then once you've done it, it's fine after that, and it's quite easy to use. So I do love that everything's digital. It's just the first time you do it or setting things up can be challenging sometimes. I just want to add on that while everything is digital, you can still pay cash pretty much everywhere. It's just not really used there. I had cash in my wallet for just in case my phone died or whatever, but I didn't use it once the whole time I was there. Oh, maybe, no, I did one time. I had no phone reception somewhere and I was able to use cash at the convenience store I was at. I liked that everything was super modern and futuristic. You know, there was a massive movement with electric vehicles there at the moment. And when I was in Chongqing, I would say about 60 to 70% of the cars there are all electric vehicles, which is really cool. And there's some really awesome looking ones, brands that I've never even heard of, with some really cool looking cars. I know a lot of the buses are EVs. There's all these incentives in place. Like if you drive a gas powered car, you need to pay for parking in places, whereas if you drive an EV, it's free parking and you get to charge for free at these places. So there are incentives for that. But basically, I just like EVs. Obviously, I still like petrol cars. I'm a petrol head. I'm into my cars, but I love both, really. One of the things I definitely liked is how clean and organized everything is over there. I noticed that when I come back to Bangkok. You know, Bangkok is quite modern, but in some places it sort of has a bit of a ghetto vibe as well. The sidewalks here are a nightmare. You got to watch where you're walking everywhere so you don't walk into some wires or a random pole, trip over a hole in the ground. So I liked that it was very easy to get around, and it was super clean. You'd see every day they like hose down the sidewalks. There'd be trucks washing off the roads, which was really nice. I never saw trash anywhere, which is a real bonus. You know, I see it everywhere here and I hate that, but I definitely like the effort that they put into over there to keeping the places clean. I think the thing I liked the most was how warm and friendly everyone was, and it kind of took me by surprise a little bit. You know, we weren't in cities that are famous for international tourism, so it was really surprising. You know, there was definitely a language barrier that we struggled with at times, but people were super friendly and people just wanted to come up to us all the time, say hi. I must have taken like a million selfies with people. People were always just amazed to see us walking around. But in general, the people were just really friendly. The girls are super approachable. There's a real cool thing, you know, it's very common to just exchange WeChat, which is the chat app over there. So you can just walk up to anyone and you do a QR code scan and you get each other's IDs and you can chat. I think, and this is the honest truth, I think Chinese girls are the most approachable girls that I've met in any country that I've traveled to, because you can just walk up and exchange the apps. So it really surprised me how friendly everyone was, how easy it was to meet people. And I made friends every single day that I go meet later for drinks or go hang out with. And it was just, overall, it was just such a nice experience. God, the comments like that I got on the first video was just, I expected to get some blowback, and I knew some people had reservations about China, but just, my God, the volume that I got just blew me away. And it just shows you how much people pay attention to what the media says, and you know, the difference from what a lot of people think China is actually like and what my experience was like are completely different. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I think people think it's like North Korea and you can't do whatever you want and you're going to be followed. People said like, oh God, I said in a video that I'd been taking lots of selfies with people, and someone said to me, Like, you know what they're doing with those selfies, right? They're reporting you to the government so they know where you're at. It's like, what? In what world are these people living in? People saying I'd be followed, I'd be tracked, all this. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. My experience from there was not different to any other country that I've visited. And, you know, for the people saying like you'll be tracked and followed or whatever, like if you're walking around with an iPhone in your pocket, then, well, guess what? You're being tracked anywhere you go. So what's the big deal, really? The other ridiculous ones were like, oh, why would you go to a communist country? It's like, well, I went to Vietnam and Laos and I love those places as well. And honestly, like the experience was no different. I think a lot of the misconceptions that people have about China is just, I mean, it just comes from the media basically. And me personally, I don't pay attention to mainstream media. I don't believe half the shit we get told. I mean, this is a great example and a scary example as to why.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these things simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think.
I also do not at all care about politics. I never have, and I probably never will. Honestly, I don't, you know, this is no word of a lie. I'm Australian, and I don't even know the name of the current Prime Minister of Australia. If you had a gun to my head, and I had to tell you, I don't even know if it's a male or female. I knew we had ScoMo through COVID, and then I don't know what happened after that. I don't, maybe he's still in. Honestly, I don't know. I do not care. I do not pay attention to any of that. It doesn't interest me at all. I just went over there to do what I always do. I love traveling. I've always wanted to visit China. I want to go basically everywhere in the world. This is what traveling is my number one favorite thing to do. And like I said earlier, my experience from traveling there was no different to any other country that I've visited. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to see more of it. I only went over there for a couple of weeks. I just wanted to test out the waters, see if my videos would do okay over there. But generally for travel, it's somewhere I've always wanted to visit it. Somewhere I will definitely visit again. And I'll go to some of the other places. I'm dying to go to Beijing, Shanghai. I want to see the Great Wall. All these other things that I didn't get to do on this trip, I will do at a later stage. This recent trip was a great opportunity for me and something I'm so glad I did. I had the best time and I got to do all these amazing things. Honestly, I'll remember this trip forever. I had such a great time and I got to do all these really cool experiences, eat so much amazing food and just meet awesome people. But yeah, don't believe everything you see in the media because I had a blast.